So to start this episode off, I wanted to send my condolences to Terrence Clarke's family. For people that don't know, Terrence Clarke, who was 19, passed away about yesterday, I believe, or 2 days ago, in a car accident. He was, like I said, 19 years old. He went to Kentucky. He was getting ready for the draft. He's from Boston, or the Boston area. It's tough, man. It's tough when you see people that pass, especially people that are young. Seeing as though, he was 19 years old. He had his whole life to live, and it's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate that, unfortunately, God called him now. So, again, I want to send my condolences to the family. Terrence Clarke was 19 years old, so to start this episode, I'm going to have 19 seconds of silence. So. Rest in peace, Terrence Clarke. Let's start the show. Welcome. I would like to welcome you to yet another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. It's your boy, Jalen. If you would do me a favor, please subscribe to whoever you're listening. Please subscribe to whoever you're watching. It would definitely mean a lot to me. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube by my birthday, which is July 20th. So if you just listen, which I appreciate, just come over to the YouTube and subscribe. You ain't got to watch. If you do want to watch, I appreciate it. But just I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube by my birthday, which is July 20th. So please do me a favor if you can. If you definitely support the Unpopular Podcast, if you support me, please come and subscribe, man. It'll definitely mean a lot. But here's where we'll start. Year after year, the debate, especially when we talk about, closer to the playoffs, is who is the MVP. And honestly, it changes year after year. And when I say that, there's most of the time, a lot of people want to, okay, first of all, what does MVP stand for? Most valuable player. A lot of people get that valuable word, mixed up. Because a lot of people think that, and rightfully so, I believe it should. A lot of people think it should go to the best player. Usually the best player should get the MVP, because if you're the best player, people say you're the most valuable. You know what I mean? But it doesn't really go like that. And honestly, the criteria to win MVP changes year after year. Sometimes, like if you look at the years LeBron won, usually it goes to the best player. It's not really, those years wasn't really narrative based. But then there are some years that are narrative based, like when Derrick Rose won his MVP, youngest ever, the Chicago. When James Harden won his MVP. It's just the hardest part about describing the MVP is the criteria changes year after year. And this year is no different. Now, this year, I will say this. This year is different in the sense of this is a wide open MVP race. And there's multiple people that can win. And if they, I understand people will be upset. But if they do win, there's reasons why they could or should win. Like, if you look, let's just look at the front runners. Let's look at the official front runners right now, which is Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. Nikola Jokic, he has been the consistent force for Denver. Nikola Jokic, Denver would be absolutely nowhere if it wasn't for Nikola Jokic, especially with Jamal Murray being out with the injury. And a lot of players on the team has been out except for Nikola Jokic. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. He is arguably one of the most talented and skilled big man the league has ever seen. From his ability to score the ball, from his ability to pass, he is in rebounding, and he is a hybrid that we've only seen. I mean, I haven't. It's kind of hard. Like I understand, like Hakeem, he's one of the most skilled big men. Sabonis, he's one of the most skilled big men. He fits those category as far as Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic is a walking triple double for a big man, and the fact that he's averaging nearly a triple double and he's averaging nearly 10 assists is unheard of for a big man. So and the fact that he hasn't missed any games is a reason why he is the front runner, and more than likely, in my opinion, unless something drastically changes, he'll probably win. But then you can look at Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid has been on a tear. He's doing things that we've only seen from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Shaq. I think he's averaging over 30 points. Like Joel Embiid, I understand they're kind of going through a rough spot, seeing as though Ben Simmons is out right now. But what Joel Embiid is doing is unheard of. You know what I mean? His scoring, along with his defense this year, along with the fact that he has his play alongside Ben Simmons' play, has Philly as the number one seed in the East. Definitely warrants, it warrants his stature. Now, he was front runner until he missed those games. I think he missed like 10 games or so. Missed those games with injury, and it kind of goes back to the rookie of the year conversation that we had. While Joel Embiid more than likely was number one, he didn't have as much space between the 1 and 2 spot for him to miss 10 games and still be number one. LaMelo Ball was having a great season, and shouts out to him. I think for reports saying he might come back in about 7 to 10 days after initially being reported that he's out for the season. So shouts out to him. But the fact that LaMelo Ball was playing great. He was hands down rookie of the year, but he wasn't playing great enough that let me say this. While he was playing great, so was Anthony Edwards, and Anthony Edwards while he was second, it was a close second. And the fact that LaMelo Ball has missed so many games, now Anthony Edwards is number one as far as rookie of the year, the ladder or whatever you want to call it. And it goes same thing for Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. While Joel Embiid was number one, Nikola Jokic has been hooping all year, and he's been available. And the fact that you missed 10 games or so, which is Joel Embiid, or missed a couple games, Nikola Jokic has continued to be great, and now he's up number one. So that's usually the best players that we've seen. Like I said, those have been the best players that we've seen this year. Of course, Giannis has been great. I think he's like third. Those players have been the most consistent and the best players this year. LeBron James was up there until he got hurt. That's just usually that's what we're seeing this year. But then you can look at the valuable word, the V in MVP, the valuable word. And that is where this argument lies. That's where we're starting. The valuable word. Now, when I say that, you have to look at people like Steph Curry. Steph Curry just had while it was broken by the Wizards, Steph Curry had 11 straight games that was worth 11 straight games where he scored 30 or more points. He is all-time leading scorer in Golden State, passing Wilt Chamberlain, and we know that Wilt Chamberlain is one of those ghosts. Like, anytime you hear a stat, they like to leave out Wilt because it's just absurd. If you pass Jordan for second, like, that is great, but you're not getting to Wilt because Wilt, and that's where we get the valuable word, man. It's hard for me to look at the MVP race and see the fluctuation that Curry has as far as valuable, because he is not only is he incredibly valuable to the NBA, but not only is he incredibly valuable to Golden State, but he's incredibly valuable to basketball and the NBA. The fact that he has literally changed the game. Now, no, I'm not saying that he should win the MVP. They're sitting at what, 10th right now, I believe, 9th or 10th in the West. They're playing for a play-in game when you have like Nikola Jokic. They're in the playoffs right now. Joel Embiid, they're first in the East. Giannis, I think they're like third in the East. I'm not saying that Steph Curry should win the MVP. But what I'm saying is you can't say that he's not one of the most valuable players in the league. Another person that we can talk about on that list is Chris Paul. Chris Paul, his value shines everywhere he goes. I think that the stat is he's had like 5 or 6 straight winning seasons, and it's not like he's played on juggernauts. Well, yeah, he did play on Houston in the 3. And he played with Clippers in the Showtime, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. Those weren't really powerhouses before he got there. And we know this man had this man has the Phoenix Suns as arguably one of the best teams in the league. The same Phoenix Sun who didn't even make the play-in game last year, and they went undefeated in the bubble. That's how you know how bad their record was going into the bubble, that you can go 8-0 in the bubble and still not make the play-in game. Chris Paul, when we talk about valuable, there is no other metric that you have to look at when you look at Chris Paul and say, I don't know if he's valuable or not. Just look at every team's schedule before he gets there and after he gets there. I understand everything that's going on when we talk about Houston with James Harden and everything, but look at their record without Chris Paul compared to with him. Look at the Pelicans. Well, they were the Hornets, but look at the Hornets ever since Chris Paul's left. Yeah, I understand you have Brandon Ingram. I understand you have Zion Williamson. I understand you have Lonzo Ball. But again, just look at what they were, especially the years directly after he left. Hell, look at the Clippers the years directly after he left. Again, I understand the way that we crown and vote for MVP changes year after year. Some years is narrative, like the year James Harden won, that was more narrative. The year that, even though that's the first time we've ever seen a player average a triple-double, the year Russell Westbrook, that was more a little narrative, seeing as though, after KD left. Derrick Rose, that was a narrative year. I think maybe Giannis's second one might have been a little narrative, but well, no, he was the best player. I ain't gonna lie to you. They tried not to give it to him, but he was the best player at the time. But I understand, and I'm not saying that Chris Paul should win the MVP. I'm not saying Steph Curry should win the MVP. Another person on that list could be Jimmy Butler and his value to a team. You see what happened after he left Minnesota. You see what happened after he left Chicago, and you see the impact that he has when he's on and off the court for Miami. I'm not saying that they should or are going to win, but what I'm saying is we really need to make a concerted effort. And here's the thing. If we need to make a decision on how we're going to vote for the MVP and how we're going to continuously do that. Are we going to continuously say, okay, it's going to be the best player and not really the most valuable, but the best player? Or is it going to be the most valuable? Because if it's going to be the best player, LeBron James should have won that multiple times, more than 4, I believe he has. Yeah, more than 4. If it's most valuable, Chris Paul should have one. Steph Curry maybe should win this year. Jimmy Butler should be up there. Giannis should be up there every year. So I'm not, and again, don't hear me saying that Jokic does not deserve the MVP. Joel Embiid does not deserve the MVP. I think Jokic, from what I've seen this entire year, I think Jokic should and will win the MVP. And congratulations to him if he does. I'm just saying we really need to look at how we gauge what the MVP is. You know what I mean? Because again, it changes, and that's why a lot of people don't take. You know the other thing that really hurts the MVP in the NBA is the Finals MVP. The fact that a lot of people, of course, the Finals MVP is more coveted than the regular season MVP, seeing as though you really only win the Finals MVP if you win the Finals. I think the only player that's ever won the Finals MVP that didn't win the Finals was Jerry West. But the fact that the MVP is awarded for the regular season, I feel that you should give it to them at the regular, like as soon as the regular season ends. Or because it's tough when you watch the regular season, then we watch the playoffs, and we saw this with Giannis the last few years. You win the MVP, and you don't even make it to. I mean, you don't make it to the finals. And I'm not saying that he didn't deserve the MVP. Again, it's a regular season award, but don't wait till the damn season's over to award a regular season MVP, and we still have the taste in our mouth of what happened to them against the Clippers or what happened to them against the Phoenix. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that the NBA can do better at this whole MVP thing. Again, this ain't the year to change it. It ain't gonna change. I think that again. I think Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic. I think more Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid deserve the MVP this year. But that's going off the merit of who's been the best player this year, and it's honestly by far. I'm not gonna say by far, but it's honestly been a two-man race since LeBron James went out, and that's Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic, and I would say Nikola Jokic should win it, but I'm just looking at that V word, the value word. If we look at value, there's no way that if you have an MVP list, there's no way Steph Curry should be on the bottom of that list, seeing as though how valuable he is to his team, how valuable he is to the NBA, how valuable he is to basketball in general. There should be no reason why Chris Paul is not even on that list. And we see the value that he has not only to Phoenix, but every team he goes on. There should be no reason why Jimmy Butler's not on that list. And we see the value that he has for Miami. So I don't know, man. I just started with a little ranty. If that is ranty, I don't know. I just think it's weird. I just think the MVP. I understand it's probably not going to change because it's a person vote, and people are always going to have their biases, or they're always going to go into, like Ramona Shelburne one time said. She goes into it as a narrative, you know. So everyone is going to vote differently. That we all know that. That's pretty much common practice. We know. It's just, I just want some consistency because, you know, with Steph Curry, a lot of people are saying that this is a wasted season for Steph, which I don't believe so, seeing as though he's breaking records and stuff. But the fact that Steph Curry, in my opinion, is not even going to finish in the top 5 in MVP is crazy to me, seeing as though how valuable he's been to his team and how valuable he's been to the NBA this entire year. The fact that Chris Paul is not going to finish in the top 5 or top 10 in MVP. And another thing that I hear is, well, Jay, if you want Chris Paul to be in the top 5, if you want Steph Curry to be in the top 5, who do you take out the top 5? Well, look, man. As incredible as Luka's been, I don't think he deserves to be in the top 5 of the MVP race. As incredible as Giannis has been this year, I don't think he deserves to be, I don't know, 3rd as what he is right now. I don't know. I'm looking at value, man. I'm looking at that V word, the value in MVP. And I just think that some players have been more valuable than others. But then again, I also recognize the fact that I believe that Nikola Jokic should win MVP. So there's that. That was my little rant, I guess. You know, moving forward. So the NFL draft is coming on the 29th, and yes, I'm going to do a mock draft. I'm going to do the Unpopular Podcast is going to do a mock draft. I'm probably going to drop it on the 28th, which is the Wednesday before the draft. I don't like doing. I know a lot of sports podcasts and sports shows like do multiple mock drafts, and I have nothing against them at all. No, y'all do y'all thing. I love the content that y'all are putting out. Do your thing. I just I just don't want to do a whole bunch of mock drafts. It's just not me. I'm gonna do one, and I'm gonna do it as close to the draft as possible. And I'm not gonna do them trades and nothing like that, because that is one thing that's unpredictable in the draft. So, but why am I saying this? Because I'm hearing a lot of dirt being thrown on Justin Fields' name. Now, it's crazy, man. When we This always happens. And when we talk about black quarterbacks, they always get unfairly scrutinized. They always get unfairly nitpicked. And they always get, how am I saying? They always get put in a category that they don't deserve to be in. And they also always get put in a category that they've outplayed. And what do I mean by that? Let's go back to Lamar Jackson, the most recent one that I can think of. Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson won a Heisman. He was the only thing that Louisville had. All year all year they were praising Lamar Jackson of how great he was and how transcendent of a player he is. Hell, he's one of a few quarterbacks whose primary skill is running with the ball. He's one of a few to win the Heisman. That's how great he was. The last time I can think of a quarterback who was that great, especially at running the ball, was probably Johnny Manziel. Well, no. He wasn't as good as Lamar. Maybe Cam. But then the draft came, and the combine came, and the scouts, and all of a sudden you started hearing, well, he's not good enough to be a quarterback. His work ethic is horrible. But they don't know if he wants it or not. He should switch to wide receiver. I don't know if he can. The famous one that we always hear is, I don't know if he can develop, like, memorize a playbook, because they don't do it in college like that. Yet and still, this is the same Lamar Jackson that gave Clemson, Deshaun Watson and Clemson a run for their money, that won a Heisman. But you can give him a Heisman. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He can deserve a Heisman. He can work his ass off for a Heisman. But once it comes to draft, you have all these nitpicks, and that's one big reason why he fell. You look up today, Lamar Jackson is one of a few players that won unanimous MVP. He is the lifeline for Baltimore. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Yet and still, they nitpick the hell out of him. And they did it with a lot. And what I hate is, and I'm gonna get to my point in a second, but what I hate is the quarterback. The reason why they still do this is that there have been quarterbacks that have proved them right, like Jamarcus Russell. You know what I mean? Jamarcus Russell's work ethic was horrible. We all know about the infamous blank CD or blank tapes story. If you don't, look it up. But African American quarterbacks get unfairly questioned, unfairly scrutinized, unfairly critiqued. A whole hell of a lot more than white quarterbacks. Hell, and now I'm going back to my point. Justin Fields, all I heard throughout the college season was Justin Fields. This is probably the best Ohio State quarterback that they've had, and this is the same Ohio State that had J.T. Barrett, who was incredible in college, that had Dwayne Haskins, who was cool and good in college, that had Cordell Patterson, I believe. No, it's Cordell something. Whatever. They had him as a quarterback. All I'm hearing is this could arguably be the best quarterback there. This is the same quarterback that beat the Clemson and Trevor Lawrence, who's going to be the number one overall pick. This is the same quarterback who took a team that was struggling in the beginning of the year, by the way, took them all the way to the national championship. While they didn't win, they took them all the way to the national championship. It's the same quarterback that they come out and say that he's not good with his number one, like he's not good going to his second and third option. But then the stats show that he was the number one quarterback at going to his second and third option. The thing that I don't like is this. Is Justin Fields going to get drafted? Yes. Justin Fields has been too good not to be drafted. But that does not mean, and it's not fair to him, that even in him being drafted, he's still I don't understand. I do understand because it's the game that they play, man. But how is it that now that you're talking in the draft, you're talking about his work ethic? Like the guy the Justin Fields who improved from the year before to now, who improved drastically and took a team to the national championships, worth ethic is bad, especially when you had to deal with everything that you had to deal with the pandemic and is the conference going to play? Is the conference not going to play? Are we going to play this week? Is the game going to get canceled? Does one of our teammates have COVID? Or does one of the teammates on the other team have COVID? You had to deal with all that, and you're telling me his worth ethic is bad? All I'm saying is this, man. I'm not saying Justin Fields is the best quarterback, right? I'm not saying that Justin Fields should go number one. I think Trevor Lawrence deserves to be number one. But what I'm saying is I don't see how scouts and teams – I do understand because teams, I guess they don't have time to watch college football. But I don't understand how you can't turn on the tape. And now you're over here talking about you're over here talking about you don't know if he has a desire to play or if his worth ethic is good. But there's people that you have over him that have off the field issues, multiple off the field issues, but those never get brought up. Justin Fields has no off the field issues, but he has all these on the field issues. But he took a team to the national championship. A team, by the way, that destroyed the number one overall pick in Trevor Lawrence and Clemson. They beat the brakes off them. Yet and still, you still question. And this is and he got hurt that game. He got hurt, and everyone in the world, including myself, was like, "Yeah, nah, he's done, bro. He's not playing. He's not playing." Yet and still, he came back, limping around, grimacing the whole game after that, and still put up at least 5 touchdowns. And you're talking about you don't know if his work ethic is strong enough and if he has the grit to play a quarterback position. You know what? I do love this though. I love when a quarterback's able to prove them wrong. I love watching the videos of Lamar Jackson sitting there. And don't get me wrong, while we all praise the Ravens passed him the first time. Like, I love seeing him sitting there and then he get drafted and now boom, unanimous MVP. They talked about Patrick Mahomes saying his decision making was bad. Wow, he doesn't have they said his decision making was bad at Texas Tech and he was only good because of the system that he ran. This is the same Patrick Mahomes who's arguably the greatest. Well, a lot of people right now are putting him in top 5 greatest ever. This is this is Justin Fields. I would love to see Justin Fields go to a great organization, man. I would love to see, and it's just we've talked about it before, man. But it's just the way that you view African American quarterbacks, the way that you view African American players. It's crazy how the only time the African American players are really seeked after is if they play wide receiver on the defensive side of the ball or running back. But when they talk about quarterback, they have all these mental evaluation that they have to do. Yet and still, they don't say anything about some quarterbacks that have DUIs, and they don't say like think about that, man. Think about that. Um think about you heard so much stuff about Lamar Jackson before he got drafted. Um and he had no off the field issues, and he dropped. Johnny Manziel had every off the field issue you could think of and still got drafted higher than he should have. And you see what happened there. So I wish nothing but the best for Justin Fields. I hope that he gets drafted high. Again, I'm gonna do my mock draft. I'm probably gonna drop it on the 28th. But yeah, it's just something that I've seen. This all this week, I've heard or all the last few weeks, I've heard nothing about Justin Fields keeps falling because his work ethic, or they don't think his arm strength, or he's not good throwing to the second or third option, or he holds the ball a little too long, or his decision in the pocket is questionable. The same Justin Fields that just made it to the freaking national championship. While they didn't win, I don't know how many people in the country would have won against that Alabama team. But, hey, it is what it is, I guess. Moving forward. So we kind of talked about this last episode. We talked about chemistry versus talent, as far as does chemistry matter when you have an immense amount of talent on your team. And I said in that episode that you do need to play with you do need to play, even if they're best friends, man, you do need to play with your teammates, because you need to know what they prefer. You need to know where they like the ball at. You need to know what their skill set is on the floor. You need to know what their weaknesses are. And it's going to bite you at a certain point if you don't develop that chemistry. If you look at all the teams, and I talked about this, but if you look at all the teams as one recently, the Lakers had a great chemistry. Toronto, even though they brought in Kawhi Leonard, the team as a whole had great chemistry. They just needed that superstar, and they brought in Kawhi. Golden State had incredible chemistry. You need chemistry to win. And then look at the teams, and I look at the teams that didn't have chemistry but had an immense amount of talent. The Lakers back in the day when they had Shaq, Kobe, they also had Gary Payton, they had Karl Malone. Like, they had all great, and some of them most of them past their prime as far as Karl Malone and Gary Payton. They had no chemistry and they got smacked. Look at the Clippers last year. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, they barely played with each other the entire year. And now you get to the playoffs when you're going up against a team that has immense chemistry in Denver, and they come back from 3-1. Where am I going with this? So James Harden has been out mostly since he's only played, I think, 7 games with KD and Kyrie. And I think he's played maybe upwards of 15, 16 games with the Nets in general. But he was out with a hamstring injury, and a report came out last week saying that he had a setback and that he's out indefinitely. And that's the thing. That's the thing with hamstrings, man. You never know. One day your hamstring can feel great. A couple days in a row your hamstring can feel great. Then you can go to advance your workout or your training, and then it can pop again. I'm not gonna say pop, but it could tense up again, or it could start hurting again. Hamstrings is tough. When they go, they go. Like, I know when a hamstring goes, it is going. So I'm not. And a lot of people were questioning, is he really hurt? But the fact that we're this close to the playoffs and he still isn't playing, and they've only played 7 games with their best players, I would say, yeah, he's hurt. And this is the fear. This is the fear that I was talking about last episode. The fear is, we know Brooklyn has an immense amount of talent. Again, you have so many scores, and it's going to be hard for their numbers when they're all playing. At least offensive numbers is out of this world, and rightfully so. I mean, you have a former MVP slash former two-time Finals MVP. You have an MVP in James Harden, and you have an NBA champion in Kyrie. Plus, you have Blake Griffin. Plus, you have DeAndre Jordan. You have Joe Harris, who statistically is one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. You have Landry Shamet. You have all these good players. You have Jeff Green, who's been better than I thought he would be. Offensively, you have a lot of pieces. But the problem with Brooklyn, and the problem that this whole James Harden situation puts on Front Street, is the fact that this team continuously gets hurt. Hell, Kevin Durant's hurt right now. He should be coming back in the next few days, if not today, but he's hurt right now. And Kyrie Irving, he keeps being out with personal family stuff, which has nothing to do with, like, I can't speak on it because I don't know. But and that's another reason why this is the last thing that Brooklyn wanted, because you don't bring in James Harden. The one reason why they brought in James Harden was for insurance. As far as, and I'm not saying he's crazy or anything, but you don't know what Kyrie's going to do. You don't know if he's going to play. We've seen this year he took a couple days off, or a couple games, I think upwards of like 10 games or something, due to family issues and stuff, or family reasons or personal reasons. So you really never know. And you want someone that's supposed to be reliable, which was supposed to be KD and James Harden. And the fact that now James Harden's out, it just throws off a lot of things out until who knows when. Like, what's his name? Steve Nash said that he can start, he can play, he can be back. I don't know, in a couple weeks. He can be back in the start of the playoffs. He could be back in round 2, round 3. Who knows? And it's. Again, you need to build that chemistry. If not, you're going to go up against, you know what it is? And this is another reason why this James Harden thing is huge. Because the last thing everyone that's probably between 1 and 3 in the East are trying to get that 1 spot. Because the last thing that you want to do is get to that 2 spot. And then you you play, I don't know, you probably play like, who's in the East? You'll probably play a lesser opponent the first round. It shouldn't be that hard. But then the next round, if you're the 2 seed, more than likely you're going to have to play like a Giannis, or you're going to have to play an opponent that can most definitely, or a Heat. And that's the last thing you want to do if you're a team that's trying to build chemistry on the fly, because you're going to have to try to build chemistry on the fly, seeing as though you're not able to do it in the regular season because they have been playing. The last thing you want to do is go up against a 2-time MVP in that team, or go up against the Miami Heat, or maybe even the Knicks. And the Knicks have mean chemistry. We'll talk about them in a little bit. So, yeah, man, I'm not saying that they're not good enough to win a championship, because talent-wise, they are leaps and bounds good enough. But what I'm saying is, it should concern you that all these players and key players continuously get hurt and haven't played together, and we are barreling down to the NBA, to the playoffs. And one of the hardest things, and one of the things that we haven't seen yet is a team build chemistry in the playoffs and still win. You can build chemistry in the playoffs. It's just and still win. That's almost unheard of. And this is what the team is going to have to do. And again, I understand you have, former MVPs and former Finals MVPs and NBA champions galore on the team, but And this is also a team that doesn't play defense. So you need to have chemistry because you ain't doing nothing on the defensive side of the ball because they're statistically one of the worst defenses, especially when we talk about rebounding. And when you're going up against the Knicks and you got Julius Randle, you're going up against the Heat, and you got Bam Adebayo, you're going up against Giannis and Brook Lopez, and then you'll ultimately maybe have to go up against Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. It's like, that is not, and you can't rebound to save your life, and you're not good defensively at all. So the only way that you're winning is outscoring people, which you can do, don't get me wrong. But when your players are hurt, and James Harden is arguably one of the best offensive players the league has ever seen, and he's not playing. As we've seen, as unfortunate as it is, KD keeps coming in and out of the lineup, seeing as though he keeps getting hurt. So it's just something that I'm sure Brooklyn is fearful about. One of their biggest fears is coming true is the team has not played together. Their chemistry is not 100%, and you're still incorporating pieces that aren't playing with each other. So I hope James Harden gets back healthy, and I hope that, I hope everything works out, man. But right now that it is definitely a cause for concern that James Harden now is out indefinitely, and it's more cause for concern for the team. I mean, I think when James Harden's going to be back, he's cool, but it's hard I don't know how you're going to build chemistry. I just don't. Unless you're doing it on the fly. But the last thing you want to do is do it on the fly in the playoffs. Like that's damn near unheard of. So, I hope he gets back stronger than ever though. So, shouts out to James. Moving forward, we just said we'll talk about the Knicks, man, and the Knicks have been incredible this year, man. The Knicks have been they're currently on an 8-game win streak, and I don't think they've done that since like the 90s. And they haven't really been this good since Melo was on the team, and it's not all coaching. But a lot of what you're seeing, the question is, one, why are the Knicks so good this year? And two, does coaching really matter in the NBA? And I'll say the answer to 1 and 2 go hand in hand. Julius Randle has been on a tear. Julius Randle is deservedly being an all-star this year. Julius Randle deserves to be an all-NBA player. Julius Randle has been incredible. Julius Randle is the heart and soul right now of the Knicks, and he is the main reason why they sit, I believe, 6th or 5th in the East. Like, nobody expected the Knicks to be this good, and nobody expected, including myself, Julius Randle to be this good. I knew he was talented. I just didn't think he was going to be this good, all NBA good. You know what I mean? But what you're starting to see is where coaching matters the most is younger teams. I'm not saying that coaching doesn't matter when we talk about the Spurs, or when we talk about Golden State, or when we talk about Miami. You know what I mean? Well, actually not Miami. When we talk about, older teams, Brooklyn. But when look at the teams that they're having the better seasons, or that are having that. Look at the younger teams that are having great seasons or good seasons. The Knicks, Coach Tibbs. The Hawks, Coach McMillan, who has been a lot better than the coaches they previously had. The Celtics, Brad Stevens. The biggest knock on, everyone knows Brad Stevens is a good coach, but the knock on him is we don't know if he's good at coaching stars. And the only star that he's really coached that he didn't develop into a star is Kyrie Irving, and that didn't go well. But, I don't know if that's as much as him as much as what's going on with Kyrie. So, but coaching matters immensely when you have a younger team. And that's one big reason why the Knicks are as good as they are, because of coaching. Coach Tibbs, one thing that we always said about Coach Tibbs has had multiple jobs. I mean, he's had the Bulls, he's had the Timberwolves. Not one person has said Coach Tibbs is a bad coach. Every one thing that they've said is Coach Tibbs is a demanding coach. When I say demanding, he's demanding of your time. He's demanding of your energy. Y'all gonna have hard practices. You might play 40 minutes a game. Coach Tibbs is very demanding, but everyone that's coached or that has been coached by him has said he's a good coach. Derrick Rose has been, and there's a lot of things that he's, I don't, sometimes you might need to chill with that, but Derrick Rose said he's a good coach. Jimmy Butler said he's a good coach. Anyone that's coached or that he's coached has said good. Look at Brad Stevens and the Celtics. Hell, and I'm not just saying it's Brad Stevens, but look at Jaylen Brown. The same Jaylen Brown from Cal, who all he was at Cal really was a dunker. Jason Tatum. Like, these are great players, and it's being led by coaching. So one reason why I think the Knicks, of course, nobody saw this Julius Randle thing coming. Nobody saw Emmanuel quickly being this good. I didn't see R.J. Barrett being this good. But that's also a sign of good coaching, especially with younger teams and younger players. Because you're coming from college, or you're coming from college where mostly in college is solely coaching. Yeah, you have, talent, but coaching is huge in college. So you have these younger players that's coming into the league and these younger players that's here on these teams. And of course you're looking for guidance, and you have, of course, vets are good, but vets can only take you so far because vets are also trying to get to a place too. So, I just want to shout out some of the coaching that we've seen this year. So shouts out to the Knicks for being this good. Shouts out to all the good coaches, you know what I mean? And again, it's, that's Coach Popovich. That's Eric Spoelstra. Steve Kerr's been, you can tell a team you can tell how good a team is. Let me say this. You can tell how good a coach is by the team's record and their defensive rankings. All I'm gonna say about that. Moving forward. So, baseball season's underway, and I said last episode that you're seeing a difference in sports as far as sports are trying to recuperate, trying to recoup the money that they lost from the pandemic. Like I said, you see the NBA is doing the playing games. We talked about the Euro Super League that fell apart pretty much. And the MLB is underway. You're seeing a lot more commercials. You're seeing a lot more games being aired. You're seeing, I think they do the extra innings thing that isn't really working out. But while it's still early in the MLB season, you're starting to see some things that are starting to look like they're kind of shaping way. You know what I mean? For one, the home run seems to be at an all-time high. I've seen so many games where there's been multiple games this year where the final score has been like 13-5 or like 18-6 or something like that. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, and of course I know not all of those are home runs, but home runs are at an all-time high. I don't know if that's because the pitching has moved up. I don't know what it is, but home runs are at an all-time high, and scores are at an all-time high, as well as pitching. I've seen there's been multiple games that I've seen that there's been no-nos. For people that don't know, no-hitters. Like, and usually you might get maybe one or two a season. I think we're only like what? We're not even a quarter in, and we've seen maybe like 5 no-hitters like that, and you're seeing the talent pretty much starting to equal each other, which is good. And we're also starting to see, I don't know, one thing that plagued the MLB is the big market teams had bigger revenues, and because they had like the Yes Network, and they had their own networks, they can pay players more. And you're seeing a contrast. You're seeing two teams right now that have huge payrolls, but they're going in two different directions. And that are the Yankees, and that's the Dodgers. The Yankees they haven't been good. Their bullpen's been bad. Their pitching's been bad. Almost everything is Aaron Judge hasn't been good. Almost everything about the Knicks, I mean the Yankees have been bad. As we're recording this, they're 6-11. Like they're not. And this is a storied. I mean, I think they have 27 World Series. Like this is a storied franchise, and they because they're in New York, because they have the Yes Network, you're able to pay people more than usual. Like more than let me say usual. Pay people more than like a Washington or like a Cleveland. You know what I mean? But then you're seeing the Dodgers. LA base huge, and the Dodgers look like they look unstoppable. And we said this going into the league, going into the season, that I don't see anybody beating the Dodgers, and they look unstoppable from Mookie Betts to Trey Turner to Clayton Kershaw. And they haven't even used Chase Budinger and stuff like that, and they're 14-4. Like, and they're stacked. They are stacked. They are loaded, and it's yeah, bro. Those are the early signs. I mean, right now maybe Cleveland's doing okay. The Kansas City Royals are doing all right. I just don't see anybody beating the Dodgers in a 7-game series right now. Now, I know anything can change. Injuries can happen. Stuff can happen in the bullpen. Bullpens can go through their highs and lows. I understand that. But as we're sitting here today, how this looked, how the whole season has looked so far, I just don't see anybody beating the Dodgers. It's hard for me to see them losing the 7-game series, seeing as though they can beat you. They can beat you with runs. They can beat you with hits. They can beat you with pitching. They can beat you at all facets of the game, and they have multiple people at all positions. So those are the early takes that I've got from the MLB. My Nationals, man, they need to. I mean, there's only so much Juan Soto can do. Like, he needs some help, man. He needs some help. But those are my early takes, man. I guess moving forward, one of the biggest news that came out, the NBA also was Kobe has had a long-standing relationship with Nike. Of course, we know about their deal. Kobe's, rest in peace, Kobe, of course. But his contract expired with Nike, and it doesn't look like the family is going to re-up. So, and that's huge for the sports community. Now, I understand. Again, a lot of people grew up on Kobe, man. A lot of the players you see today grew up on Kobe. The reason why there's a huge debate between who's better between LeBron James and Michael Jordan is because you have the people that grew up watching Michael Jordan do what he do, and of course pass those down in clips and stuff. It's like, that's Jordan. But then you have people that's growing up and living through what LeBron James doing. It's like, I don't know. And Kobe has been a staple in the basketball world since he's got here. Of course, again, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. But while he's been a staple, so is his shoes. I mean, you look at Devin Booker, who wears Kobe's a lot. You look at DeMar DeRozan, who wears Kobe's all the time. You look at PJ Tucker, the quote-unquote shoe king. He wears Kobe's a lot. It's just a lot of players, especially now, are wearing Kobe's, and the fact that the deal was going to be over and it doesn't look like they'll renew. This is just, and we talk about resale. Now, that's a whole nother topic, but you talk about resale prices for these Kobe's, and it's going to mean a lot more. Like you saw when Kanye left Nike, and how his Red October, his Yeezy, Nike Yeezys just skyrocketed in price. And you even saw when Kobe left Adidas, and he didn't even have the best Adidas shoes, but you see how those skyrocketed in price. Kobe was a legend, is a legend. I'm sorry, Kobe is a legend, and his shoes it's kind of like Jordans. I'm not saying it's on the same level as Jordans, but when we talk about performance and basketball shoes, a lot of people go to Kobe's because just his legacy that he holds. So I'm excited to see what's next for the Kobe line. I think they're trying to do, have like a mercurial, which is his brand. I think they're trying to do like a whole footwear thing, which I think is dope. And I'm just excited to see what happens. But again, rest in peace. This just gives me another opportunity to talk about Kobe, man. So rest in peace, Kobe, man. Rest in peace, Kobe. And there you have it, man. That has been this week's episode, or that has been today's episode of Unpopular Podcast. A lot of people were asking, was I going to talk about Derek Chauvin, who was found guilty of murdering George Floyd? I'm glad that justice was served. I don't know if this has changed. The only way that you can see if this is signs of change is if it continues to happen. I think that it's unfortunate that people in the African American community, including myself, were surprised at the fact that he was found guilty on like all 3 counts. Even with the video, even with the 9-minute video of him, putting his knee on his neck and stuff like that. Even with all that, this still was like a 3-week trial. And again, it was unfortunate watching as an African American and seeing that they were throwing, carbon monoxide, and of course they put up his criminal record and mental health and stuff like that, instead of the fact that he could have had other health problems that caused him to die. Like, no, bro, you put your knee on his neck, my guy, for 9 minutes. But I was happy and I was pleased to find that justice was served for George Floyd and his family. But like I said, it's only change if it continues to happen. If it doesn't continue to happen and it goes back to what's usually the case, then it's really not change. It's an anomaly. So, but I'm happy with the outcome, and I pray for the strength of George Floyd's family. So, but yeah, there you have it, man. That has been this week's episode of today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate all you guys that support me. I appreciate all you guys that have already subscribed. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It will definitely mean a lot to me. Again, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by my birthday, which is July 20th. So please, even if you don't want to watch, just click the subscribe and you can keep moving. But I appreciate you guys' support. If you want an Unpopular Podcast hoodie, if you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, it's about to start getting hot out there. So get you some t-shirts. The link is in the description below. I have, like I said, if you don't like the displayed color of the shirt, just click on the shirt and there's multiple colors. But it's about to get hot outside, so I don't expect you to wear hoodies all the time. So get you an Unpopular Podcast shirt. If you're like a female, I'm sorry. If you're a woman and you know how all women are anemic, get you a long sleeve shirt. I got what you need, man. Let's go to the description below. But I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and until next time, much love.